I'm Newell Quinton. I was born and raised right here in, San Domingo, as we call it. My parents raised pretty much most of their food items for the family on just a family plot. They had 40 acres of land here, still do. He grew corn, and of course the vegetables for gardening, and we did big strawberries that he sold. But corn was actually raised to feed the animals. This plot of land, it goes back in our family back to, 3 other generations. We're very independent. We're able to maintain our own food for the family. Either we grew it or we raised animals. Because my mother always had chickens, ducks, geese, whatever you named. And of course, my father supported that by tilling the ground and raising hogs. But even that, my mother really took care of the pigs too, because she was adamant about what they ate. She didn't feed them anything. I mean, a lot of people talk about feeding the hog scraps. My mother, she knows, because she would feed them things from the garden or corn, and that it wasn't just whatever. It wasn't just scraps. This is what they would get. And so we always did that. I had either been in Baltimore or Washington working, and I lived in Baltimore, but I'd always come home to see how my parents were doing, or to do whatever I could to help him maintain the property or maintain his fields or whatever. But they were always very traditional in the sense they always had a hog. And my mother was always adamant about, well, we have to kill a hog for sausage and scramble. And so when I retired and came home, she says, gee, I guess I'm not going to get to kill any more hogs. And I said, no, we can kill them if you want to. And so with that being very important to her, I said, no, we can keep things going. We can still have hogs and chickens, and because it's very important to her. So we have killed at least 1 or 2 hogs every year. On any given day, in the fall or the winter months, you could find us up here. If somebody says, let's make some scrambled sausage, we say, okay, let's kill a pig. And if I was following the procedure that we were taught, I mean, there is a lot of preparation because the product is so critical for family food system, okay? So we start gathering the wood. I mean, gathering wood for the fire, because you're going to burn a lot of wood. You're going to burn a lot of wood in those days because you got to boil that water. That's the first step, is getting the wood together, the water, being able to boil the water. You can't do anything at all until that water gets up to a reasonable temperature to scald the animal. Once the water is at the right temperature, then you can, kill the animal. Because you really want to be ready for the scalding as soon as the animal is killed. You don't want to kill the animal, lay it down. Ever since I've been killing them, shoot them to make sure that the animal's down, and then I cut the jugular. Now, my grandfather, I don't recall him ever having a rifle. I really don't recall my father having a rifle, but what those men in that generation did, I'm sure my father was telling me, he said, you know what, your grandpa, he wasn't even wasting all that time. He would have got in there with his axe and hit that pig in the head and be done with it. And that would have been his father. And sure enough, that's the way they would have done it. I mean, they would have stunned it with a blow to the head and just cut his throat. And it was every day for them. It wasn't an occasional thing. They were that generation. And then you got to stick it. And what sticking it means is you cut the jugular vein so it bleeds out, so the blood actually leaves the animal, so you don't have a lot of blood in the meat. So always make sure that we cut that jugular as fast as we can while the animal is actually still alive, so the blood comes out. And then you go, the next step is the scalding process, dipping it in a tank and scalding and pulling the hair off. The time-consuming piece about butchering a hog is building the fire and the scalding water. You have to have that water the right temperature in order to scald that pig. My father and his generation used the shovel to see how soon that shovel would dry. And if that shovel dries in reasonable amount of time, you know the water's hot enough. And so we use the sure poles. Now, one of those poles, those tripods down there, that is actually my father's that he used. And that's what we used to raise the animal up to gut it on those poles. And that's basically the process. Once you finish that, cleaning and hanging them and gutting them, it's pretty straightforward than cutting up different sections of the meat. I guess in respect to my parents and the traditions and what we did as youth, and also a little bit of fun. I said, hey, we can maintain that tradition as killing hogs because I like sausage, I like scramble, and I enjoy raising the animals. And so it was a combination of things. So we continue to do it. And lo and behold, very few people in the community even remember how to do it. I mean, my cousins do. So we tend to keep it alive by doing it together.